disease and death are the fastest growing industries in America. I mean, I don't mean to laugh when I say that, but it's just the growth of these industries is astronomical. They are huge. When you go to any town in America, I've been all over lecturing. What is the spanking new building that you see in town? It is a dialysis center. It is a center for children's cancer. It is some new healthcare building. That is where the money is.
Yeah.
And that's because that industry is thriving.
Driving. Wow. Yeah, that's so sad. And the death and destruction of our health as the reward for money is it's so sad. We do okay. We do every like few months or few years. There's some new like kind of food recommendation or a scale of food. In this case, the food compass that comes out of Tufts. They're going to go through and based on different things, they're going to create this great list, like 8,000 different foods ranked for good things, being part of that food and bad things not being part of that food. And so they go through and kind of find some like things to make this ranking. When I when I read your tweet about this, like I knew that this was out, but when I read the tweet to see how ridiculous this was, I was stoked because this is so over the top ridiculous. I thought this might actually like help people realize how stupid this is. Can you tell us about the food compass?
Yeah, this is a food ranking system that was developed by Darush Mozaffarian, who's the head of the Tufts University Friedman School of Nutrition and Policy. I'm mentioning his name because I'm going to bring it up again later, and it's important. In a 2021 paper, they came up with this ranking system. Ranking systems are important because, like, they can be sold, say, to a supermarket chain that wants to say, okay, this is Tufts approved healthy food. We're going to put that out there, and that has a stamp of approval. What gets go green, eat more of? Frosted mini wheats, chocolate covered almonds, honey nut Cheerios. Cheerios was received a score of 95 out of 100 as considered one of the healthiest foods on the planet by Tufts. And altogether, they named more than 70 brand name cereals. So cereals named by brand, including Lucky Charms and others. They were go to eat more foods considered far healthier than the red do not eat foods, which included a whole egg cooked in butter, cheddar cheese, and ground beef, which got one of the lowest scores of this food pyramid. I'm sure you can flash it up here for people to see, but that's not a colored version. But it's egg whites cooked in vegetable oils were also considered more healthy than a whole boiled egg. Uh, I mean, that's just a diabetes, a give me diabetes diet, right? And the fact that they're brand named cereals just reeks of the promotion of industry interests. Like there's no other way to read that. It's so absurd. And I mean, I do in my Substack column go into the specific reasons how Mozaffarian ended up with his rankings, like exactly what they did. How did they automatically discounted meat that was considered unhealthy, just like it could never score higher than 70 out of 100 just by virtue of being meat. So you can read the details if you want, but it's patently absurd on the face of it.
It's crazy.
And I mentioned Mozaffarian because who is the most prominent nutrition scientist who has been leading the entire effort for the White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health? Darush Mozaffarian. He has been driving this whole process. He is the most prominent person, and Tufts is basically hosting all the materials for the conference and has been the main partner in making this happen. Same people who think you should eat Cheerios as the healthiest food on the planet.
It's absolutely bananas. I'm looking at the list now. So the two top ones, 100 out of 100 points, are watermelon and kale. Well, what is nutritious about a watermelon? I know for a fact that my client, who is a former type 2 diabetic, he's completely addicted to watermelon. And in watermelon season, he'll give in and his blood sugar will go crazy to the point that he'll need to use insulin again temporarily. And he does that knowingly and he can't get away from it. But how is watermelon healthier than millet, even like millet's 65, watermelon's 100. Like even if you eat plant-based, this makes no sense. Is there anybody that like supports this besides Tuft? Has this been like reviewed and a group organization, other organizations have said, yes, this is amazing, we love this, we get behind this?
I all I know is that this paper has been cited quite a lot, and other scholars in the field have used the compass to do further analyses. Like they have taken it at face value and said, okay, how could we implement this? What would be a way to do this in a cost-effective way, or whatever they're doing? So it hasn't received any criticism other than this one paper, which is the paper that I cite as the basis for my analysis. And that paper they couldn't find anybody to publish their work. So,
Wow.
so as far as I know, the nutrition experts in the field have received this and accepted it as something worthwhile,
Wow.
which tells you a lot about what you need to know about nutrition. I mean, the whole field just needs to start over. If you have a group of experts saying that they think Lucky Charms is healthier than eggs, you know that you are in a failed academic discipline.
That's right. And that's why I was excited when I saw it, because I thought, okay, this is the first thing that we don't need to do like studies. We don't need to show like a lot of evidence. This
Right.
is common damn sense. This is common sense. Anybody should be able to look at this and go, okay, like, come on. Come on. It's insane.
I agree, but I think it's like we live in a time when absurdities are accepted as are sort of a common reality that we're supposed to find rational, and food is just definitely one of them. And again, who would be the critics? It has historically been journalists, the fourth estate, or it was other scientists who would make critiques, but we are no longer in a free environment. I mean, a free information environment.
Yeah. So is things like this, your Substack, is this like the very best way that you can get your message out?
Right now, I would say that is where I'm putting my energy. So yes, I would love, and I plan to expand it and have other writers such as Gary Taubes join me there. I think we need to create a nutrition news universe of good information where we can grow up to be a countervailing source to yet another um, you know eat more vegan food story in the New York Times. Like people need to know what the latest studies actually say.
Yeah, I would really look forward to having you and him on the page. That would be awesome. We love Gary and all of his work. So tell us a little bit about this conference that's going on. You wrote about this in one of your latest Substacks, and it really seemed to me like even the agenda was like really shrouded, or who was going to be there or not be there. What was the deal with that? What was going on with that?
It's been a conference that has been in the works, in the planning, as I said, led by Darush Mozaffarian and Tufts for some years. There has been a lot of work, and it has involved, when you go back and trace the lead up, it has involved bringing in the whole nutrition establishment. So former secretaries of agriculture, former people from Health and Human Services, like a very establishment oriented group, bipartisan, so to their credit, but the people who have created and invested in the guidelines. It's also involved a lot of corporations. One of the things they've done is they've rolled out this very appealing concept, food as medicine. Don't we all agree that food should be medicine? But of course, the devil is in the details. What is their version of food as medicine is is basically it's a rebranding of the dietary guidelines, because anything the government does all federal programs must by law follow the dietary guidelines. So food as medicine is yet another way to say eat more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low fat, dairy, and lean meat, more nuts and seeds. That's the guidelines. That's going to be their food as medicine. Now, to their credit, they're going to try to get more food to people who need it, to hungry people. But the main problem is they're not delivering foods that really contain the nutrients in the form that people can absorb. So it's not food as medicine in a way that will actually help people to recover from their chronic diseases. So the conference, I don't have an insider seat in this, but I can tell you there's nobody from the therapeutic carbohydrate restriction world. There's nobody working on the front lines of reversing type 2 diabetes or any other diet related disease. There's nobody talking about the need to reduce sugar or much less any other kind of carbohydrate. The hunger groups have been co-opted in large part by the soft drink companies. So even the hunger groups are not asking people, say in the food stamps, what we now call SNAP programs, to reduce their consumption of sugar sweetened beverages. That's the level. I mean, even that proposal did not go through for this conference. So on top of that whole effort, and we now have this huge White House effort, and they have a number of programs that they have proposed. Mostly it's more funding for the guidelines, more education of the guidelines, more places, more and more of this government program in more places. And if those guidelines were giving people good advice, that could be a great idea. It certainly would counteract the kind of the pharmaceutical industry and their approach to sickness, which is just to give people more medication. But at the moment, I think what we're going to see is more of the guidelines, if they're able to pass any of these programs, which I think in the midterm elections, given the likely turnover in the House, seems increasingly unlikely. So it might be, that these don't come to fruition.
Yeah, interesting. I
In
was
the
going
end,
to ask. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I mean, which in the end could ironically be good news.
Yeah. So, what will be the end result of this conference? Or will they change any policy from this? Is it just to kind of keep the conversation going? Is this something they'll use when they set the guidelines again in 2025? Like, what for this particular conference? Like, what is the end game? What's going to happen?
There are so many different agendas in this conference that I think you can't there's no one outcome. Many of their proposals, as I said, depend on congressional approval. It's unlikely that that will happen before the midterm elections. Other proposals involve the private sector. There have been there's an effort to reorganize the entire government so that that all nutrition programs fall under one new agency that they're proposing. I think, all I can say is the things that have actually been passed is there's a $2 million pilot program for the food as medicine program that has actually been proposed and is in potentially will be appropriated for next year, with no details really other than organic food as to what that food might look like. But I think what you're going to see is that this is going to be used as a template that the Biden administration will try to roll out in the coming years, and maybe it'll be picked up by the next administration. But I think we just really don't know at this point.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's so interesting. So on the one hand, I see the plant-based message and movement, and the Game Changers documentaries, and I see the Tufts Food Compass, and I see the government guidelines, and just a lot of stuff pushing in that direction. But I also see some movement at the American Diabetes Association, where they are at least allowing practitioners to practice low carb. I'm seeing lots of anecdote. Lots more people are getting very healthy by lowering their carbohydrate intake and going back to healthy saturated fats. I see lots of medical professionals. We've interviewed several on this podcast alone, probably 20 or 30 different people in the medical community that have changed their own lives and are now changing the lives of their patients. So on the one hand, I'm feeling very pessimistic about this whole situation. On the other hand, I'm honestly wondering, is there going to be this moment where enough people are going to start to turn the tide and we're going to have to change our conversation? Very curious. In your position from where you are, how are you feeling these days on being optimistic or pessimistic about our situation?
Well, like you, I feel a little schizophrenic about it because, as you say, there's movement in the American Diabetes Association. There's ABC News coming out with 2 news segments on low carb diets and saying they're obviously successful, and everybody agreeing on Good Morning America as if it's always been known. And clearly there's just research coming out all the time, um, in very promising ways for Alzheimer's, for mental health, mental illnesses. So that's very hopeful. And one thing, I don't know where this is going to end up, but I will say one thing to anybody who's listening and watching, which is it really is going to depend on everybody participating. Like it is going to depend on us because we are the forces for change. We are the ones who prevented the saturated fat caps from being lowered even more, which is what the dietary committee wanted in the last guidelines. We are the ones who got those 77% of comments on low carbohydrate diets. And it's incredibly important, even if you feel like your own life is going just fine, because it will affect. I do believe that they will try to roll out taxes on meat. They will try to push meat, the take away meat in schools. They will promote more and more grains because it's cheaper. I think it will affect, if not you, then your loved ones or your children or your elderly relative in a an elder care home, the military. So there are many ways in which it does affect people. So I would encourage people to sign up for the newsletter at the Nutrition Coalition, which is the group I founded. We have a new executive director coming in, a really great person that I can't tell you who it is yet.
Ah, dang.
A lot of experience, who is going to take this to the next level. So go to nutritioncoalition.us and sign up for the newsletter. And that is how we will get the word out to you to participate. People have come out in the thousands, and we need people's voices, to call their congressman or their senator, or we need them to show up, because it is us metabolically aware people that are going to be able to make a difference. And just to give people an idea, like, how can we make a difference? I mean, obviously we're not invited to the White House conference, but let's say we could make it easier to get continuous glucose monitors. That is a great way to educate people, right?
Huge.
We could do something like that, which would kind of bypass the guidelines a little bit. Maybe we could get an alternative dietary guidelines for people who are not metabolically well, because currently our guidelines are really meant only for healthy people. Well, 7% of us are metabolically well now.
It's
So
so ironic.
how about another guidelines for people who are not well? That's the kind of thing that we can do going forward, but we need
That's
all of
amazing.
us to participate.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you make it so easy on the coalition website with like templates of things that you can even just copy and change a few things to be able to write to your senators, your legislators. So I definitely really appreciate that, and really appreciate any time that we get to spend with you, and all of your hard work. Can you tell our listeners one more time, where is the best place that they can go to connect with you and your work?
Unsettled Science on Substack. If you just type that into Google, you'll find me there. Just subscribe. It's currently free, to get my newsletter, and then go to nutritioncoalition.us and sign up there to get the newsletter there, to stay informed about what you can do to make a difference.
And then any places on social media that you want people to go to follow you?
Oh, on Twitter, I'm at Big Fat Surprise, and that's the place where I'm the most active.
Awesome. We will link to all of that. Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. We'll link to all of that in the show notes. Nina Teicholz, is always just such an honor and a pleasure to talk to you. Somebody who is extremely influential in my own understanding of nutrition, and the ripple effect at this point of your work is absolutely tremendous, and has helped a lot of people stop with their suffering. So thank you so very much for everything that you do, and thank you for taking time to appear on our show today. We really appreciate you.
Casey, you're always such a pleasure to talk to, and thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Such an honor. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio. 20 seconds. Awesome. That was perfect.
Thank you so much. You are just such a generous and lovely host. And I want to just make one comment, which I didn't want to make at the top of the show because I didn't want to interrupt, but that bio is outdated.
Okay.
So I'm no longer at NYU, and I'm no longer the executive director of the Nutrition Coalition. But I'm on the board. So I should send, I don't know, if you want to, I can just send you the most recent one. And I don't know if
That
it'd
would
be
be great.
helpful to re-record it. I'm really sorry. I thought it was better not to say anything like while we were starting off the
You're
show.
fine. I need to do a better job of sending these out before so that people can read them. That would have been nice to know. So we record our intro music as it plays live. So anything in the first 2 minutes of the episode, I can't go back and edit. Well, we can
Okay.
re-record it though. We can take it again, and I can find a place to cut out and cut in the conversation.
No, that's okay because I have to go. So it's no
Okay.
problem. Don't worry about it. It's fine. We'll just like I'll pretend that I didn't hear it, so that's fine.
And then yeah, if you have an updated one, you can send it over to me and I'll put it in for the show notes to make sure that's accurate. And
Okay.
I know you've mentioned this in the book, and I know you have to go real quick. Mark Bittman, what's this guy's deal? I just finished a book by him called Animal Vegetable Junk, and he makes this like really great and seemingly accurate case about where our food come from and the industry and how we evolved and everything. And then like the recommendations at the end are like the opposite. It's the weirdest.
Yeah. So he used to be a columnist for the New York Times on food until he was basically kicked out.
Mm,
And then he wrote this book called Vegan Before Six, where he was like a semi-vegan before
yeah.
6 p.m.
Okay.
Then he started a vegan food company, moved to Berkeley. That failed big time, called Purple Carrot, and it was apparently a total disaster.
Wow.
Then he came back, and I think he's doing Substack and trying to write books and whatever, but he's a faded influencer.
Mm, got it.
And I mean, I wouldn't give him any airtime at all because I
Yeah.
think he's an asshole and he's dishonest and like he's never been an honest person.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Thank you, Nita. Always enjoy.
Anytime.
Anytime you want to come back on, let us know.
Okay, it's really good to talk to you. I hope we
Really
get
great.
to like hang out in person sometime soon.
I hope so too. I'm going to try to get out to more conferences this year.
Okay. All right. Mwah.
You're awesome.
Bye.
Thank you so much. See ya. Have a great
Bye.
day.